I'm dying. I need my mommy. I need like chicken soup and orange juice and cold medicine. No, I don't like cold medicine. I hate cold medicine. It just makes things worse. Like NyQuil. Ugh, I hate that stuff. No, I need my daughter. I need my daughter to make me a Mary Magdalene. And I need some sleep. But it's only like 3 o'clock in the afternoon and the kids are wide awake, so. I don't know what to do. I feel miserable. Feel sorry for me. Make me feel better. Send me some positive vibes. I don't want to be sick all week. This is day 2. Oh my God, my throat hurts so bad. It's raining. It's so pretty. Hi. Oh, are you going to make me feel better? You sweet kitty cat. This is Winky, or Jinx. He's got one eye. Come here, Jinx. Come here. Look at the poor kitty. He's got one eye, huh? Oh, I think I need a hot shower. I think the steam from the shower will loosen things up and make my throat feel better. And I need some tea. Oh, yeah, tea. Tea sounds really good. I think I'll go make some tea. The kids are being so good. We made some chocolate chip cookies, and they're watching the Goonies, and they've just been so good. They really wanted to go swimming, but my head wrap's coming off because I was laying down. They had hoped to go swimming because it was beautiful yesterday and the day before, but then today we woke up and it's all cold and gloomy, and I think that's why I have a cold, because it's gone from hot to cold, to, going in and out of the air conditioning and swimming and being around sick people last week. So, because I hardly ever get sick, seriously. But when I do, oh my God, I'm dying. I'm dying. I hate being sick. It's the worst. Ugh. Let's go make some tea. Some tea and maybe some fresh squeezed orange juice. Where's Charlie and X? Oh, you like this movie? Why is the snack cabinet open? Let's see if they're really done. I think they look good. They look pretty good, you guys. Good job. We'll let them cool off for just a little bit. What are you doing? Yeah, find the remote. Keep shutting that off.
Guys, let's play this. I'm gonna touch you, okay?
Okay, so we're going to make some tea and see if that'll help us feel better. Tea always makes me feel better. So do you guys believe in like paranormal stuff, like ghost stories and that kind of thing? Because to be honest with you, up until it happened to me, I just thought it was ridiculous. And when people would tell me their stories, I would always pretend like, oh, yeah, I'd listen to them. But 99% of the time, I was like, sure, yeah, I did not believe it at all, at all. I just thought they either wanted attention or they just were flat out lying. So, um, but then when I had a few incidents happen to me when I was older, I thought, okay, okay, I believe that this kind of thing happens because everybody seems to have a story. That's why I thought, come on, everybody has a story, and yet nobody. I don't see no pictures of ghosts. I mean, for real. But anyway, hi, Kat. The first incident that happened to me really wasn't that scary, but it was real. Um, my husband and I were in the family room, and we had this big wraparound couch, and I was at one end and he was at the other, and then we had this picture hanging over the couch. It had been there for years, and while we're watching the movie, the picture just suddenly just came down crashing. And it just freaked us out. It's like it'd been there for years, and all of a sudden it comes crashing down. And the picture was, it had a saying on it, something about how people come and go in our lives, and they're there for a reason, but everybody eventually moves on because everybody eventually passes away. So, I just thought, okay, bummer. So we picked it up because the glass had cracked. Well, 10 minutes later, we get a phone call from my husband's sister. And 10 minutes prior to that, she said that their father had passed away. So it would have been right when that picture fell. So in my mind, that was my husband's dad coming to say goodbye. Maybe it was just a really grand coincidence that picture of all the pictures fell, with that message on it at that same exact time. It could be, because, I'm still tiny bit of a skeptic, but and then my each one of my kids have had their own incidents. And they weren't one, how when kids are little, they like to be like everybody else and tell their stories and make up stuff. My kids never did, never, until they were older. My daughter was a teenager when she had her first incident. She had a couple, but the one, she was cleaning her room, and I was at work. I worked in an art supply store, and she calls me at work and goes, Mom, you got to come home right away. And I'm thinking, oh God, her and her brother are fighting. I got to go home. And I was like, what's going on? And she's like, I was cleaning my room, and I swear to God, Mom, this bottle cap just floated up and started levitating, and nothing was touching it, just out of the blue. And she's like, I'm not going back in the house. I was like, well, I don't blame you. If that happened, I wouldn't go back in the house either. But, I was like, that's kind of odd. But like I said, she was never one for fibbing or making stories up. She just wasn't that way. And so I got home, and we were talking about it. And my son had also had that room because they switched rooms periodically. And he said that, there had been some incidents that happened to him, like the TV going off and on and stuff, and a few other things moving around. They'd never mentioned it before. So I'm like, what the heck, man? They're so loud. So, yeah, then there was that. And then also, after my mom had passed away, my mom came to live with us at the end of her life. She had cancer, and we kind of took care of her at our house, and we had hospice coming in, but she literally ended up passing away in our home. And after she passed away, um, I always expected to see something. I thought, her spirit would be here, right? It would have stayed behind, or she'd haunt me or something, right? If this kind of stuff was real. Nothing, not any. I didn't have dreams, nothing, and I was open to it because I mean, I was afraid of spirits, but it was my mom. I kind of wanted, to hear from my mom, and I didn't hear anything. So I was like, well, that's a bummer. But my daughter, she actually went and stayed at my cousin's house who lived real close to me. And while she was there, she had an incident with an orb. And she really believes it was her grandmother because it was right around the time that her grandmother had passed. So again, like I said, I'm open to it because it's my daughter, and I don't believe that she would make this kind of stuff up. But it just seemed odd. It's like, why would you get it and not me? Oh, hold on. Okay, I'm making dinner for the kids. So where was I? Okay, my daughter, yeah, she saw the orb, and she believes it was my mom. Her and my mom were very close. They actually shared the same birth date. So, it makes sense that my mom would, show her a sign if that were the case. I don't know. But then my son, my middle son, years later, he was, they used to live, before him and his fiance got married, they were living at her mom's house. And he was in the bedroom and he looks across the hall and he's seen his wife go into her mom's room, and he thought he was going to sneak up behind her and scare her because he was always doing that to all of us. He just thought that was hilarious. I don't know how many times he scared the crap out of me. But anyway, so he goes in there, tiptoes behind her, goes in the room, and he's looking around, and it's like, why is the light off? It's dark in here. And he looks around, he doesn't see her, so he turns around to go out, and here she comes walking in the room. She's like, what are you doing in my mom's room? And he's like, I just seen you come in here. And she goes, well, obviously you didn't, because I'm just now coming in here. And he's like, I swear, I just seen you come in the room. This woman with dark hair, you know, it looked like you. And she goes, oh, that's probably our ghost. Your ghost? She's like, yeah, everybody's seen her. Even her mom has a daycare, and even some of the daycare kids had seen her. He goes, yeah. She said, there's this woman, and I think they believed it to be her grandmother. So I'm not sure, but yeah, they'd all had an incident with it. So um, he was kind of freaked out about it because he hadn't had any, prior things, except for, he had some things happen in his room, but he chalked it up as, no big deal. But to actually see, a being, that was his first time. So it kind of tripped him out. And then years later, my oldest son went camping with a group of friends up in the mountains, and they stayed at this old abandoned schoolhouse. It was a two-room schoolhouse, and one side had a fireplace, and that's where they would sleep. They would roll out their sleeping bags, and they'd make a fire or whatever. And so, they had done that, and they're sleeping. And then at some point, the fire started to go out. So he got up in the middle of the night and stoked the fire, got it going again, and he's getting ready to lay back down. And he looks over into the other room, and he sees this little girl walk across the entryway real slow, he said. And then she turns over, she looks at him, and then she just kept walking. And he's just staring at her, and he got up and looked in the room. There was nobody there. It was just a little room. And he's like, what the heck? Because he had heard stories about that too. And they had had some incidents earlier that evening with things happening. And, he wasn't sure, but he said he definitely believes that place is haunted. So, and he hasn't had any other incidents since then. It's not like they just, make these stories up on the regular. They've each had like an incident or two, and that was it. Now, I was open to it with my mom because I thought, it's my mom. I would have liked to have seen that. But for the most part, I think there was a part of me that was always afraid of that kind of stuff. So I would always sage the heck out of my homes when we first move in, and say a prayer and all that stuff. It's like, you are not allowed in my house because I heard you can actually invite them in. It's like, I am not inviting anybody in. I didn't use Ouija boards. It's like, I don't want that. Stay away. And I would literally say that. But then when I lost my mom, I thought, wow, I would have liked to, if that was going to happen, she would be the one that I'd want to have an incident with, and, nothing. So, like I said, I don't, now I'm just not as cynical. I still am not 100% sure, but now when people tell me their stories, I'm like, okay, yeah, I can see that that's a pot, because, these things did happen. So I'm not as cynical. Whereas before I would just be like, no. Now it's like, yeah, these things happen. And, and I've watched paranormal shows and stuff, and I've seen some things that I thought, okay, yeah, I could see that. But man, you know, when people have these things happen to them, they're all just like, oh, okay. And, I would be like freaking out. If something like that happened to me, I'd like, oh my God, can you believe I just, I wouldn't be like, oh, I saw a ghost last night. I just never understood that, you know. And then I don't know how I feel, because some people believe that if you do see it, it's not a good spirit, because good spirits move on. It's always bad spirits that hang around. So maybe I don't want to see it. I don't know. And maybe that's not the case, who knows? I'm not going to know until I pass on, right? I don't know. So, but I try to be open, like I said, and not so skeptical, and not think everybody's a liar, because, I think these things do happen, and whether they're coincidence or not. But I've heard too many stories. So I'm a lot more open now in my old age. I was way more closed off when I was younger, but um, just because my own kids, I believe my kids. So now I'm like, okay, if it happened to them, I guess it could happen to other people. And I've heard some stories that raise the hair on my arms. I'm like, oh my God. And the only reason I'm bringing this up is because I was watching Christopher earlier from Muskogee Land, and he touched briefly on some paranormal incidents that he had happened, but he left me hanging. I want to know more. It's like, what are you talking about? You can't just vaguely bring something like that up and then leave us. I want to know more. So if you have any stories, I would love to hear them. I am open. Like I said, I'm not like I used to be. I'd be interested in hearing, except if it's really scary. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear scary stories. But if you've had some encounters or whatever, yeah, drop me, a comment. Let me know. I'm curious. My grandkids are trying to tell me that they've had incidents, but it could happen. So anyway, I got to finish making dinner. Did you guys see anything on Luke from the Outdoor Boys saying that he was retiring? My husband just sent me a link showing that I guess he's gonna stop making YouTube videos. That makes me sad. He's like my favorite. Jerry, you're fine. He's like my most favorite YouTuber. I've been watching him for ages now. I love him. You know how I love those type of videos where they're out in the snow, and he's the best. He's, oh my God, if you haven't started watching him, The Outdoor Boys, he's amazing. You're fine. Every time the animals hear me talking to the camera, they freak out. Just like how Jazz does. Jerry's the same way. It's like, what's going on? He's got to know what's going on. It trips him out. I don't know what it is, but he was just calm. He was just fine a few minutes ago. But anyway, yeah, I'm really sad about that. But okay, it's getting late. The kids have been fed. They're having fun. They're making a movie, and I'm going to finish my tea. I'm starting to feel a little better, and I got to find something that we can all watch. We watched The Goonies earlier, which that's a classic, but I got to find something else that everybody likes. You're fine. I promise. You're good. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to let you guys go. And like I had asked you previously, if you have any, Jerry, if you have any stories on paranormal stuff, on ghosts, share them with me in the link or in the comments. Anyway, I will see you guys in the next video. Take care, guys. Okay, go for it now. I'm done. You can make all the noise you want.